Did I hear some sirens go by earlier?
Yeah, it's a car. I think it's car. We don't have that fighting by a long ways back over that way.
Mm.
There y'all.
Hey, Patrick.
How's it going, Bobby? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm here.
You're here. That's right. So hopefully it's a good thing and not because of absolute insanity or challenges.
Well, I'm having problems with my machine.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. What's up? Looks like we got Christine and Casey on too.
Yeah. Well, I'm new to this. I was on here a couple of weeks ago because I was having calibration problems.
Right.
And, well, last week I was trying to recalibrate it again, and my XY just went crazy. And it would try to go in different directions that I wanted it to go. And it actually pulled out the nails on my chains because it stretched them so tight. And it done that 3 different times. And even hitting the reset button and everything, it just wouldn't stop. And finally I was trying to get it to go down, and it went straight up to the point that where it torqued my motor mounts inward and bent them a little bit. So now when I go toward the top of my work area, the chains try to come off the sprockets. But
Yeah,
I still can't get it to work.
Yeah, you definitely need to get. So have you filed a ticket on that first off?
Well, I filed one when I was trying to calibrate the Z-axis. And like I said, I was on here 2 weeks ago, and they gave me some things to try, like separating my wires instead of having them bundled together.
Right.
And it doesn't look like that worked.
Okay. So it sounds like our next step is likely to get you a new board. So it sounds like you need some motor mounts and probably a new board. Casey, any other thoughts about a next best potential reason for some of these things?
Yeah, so was this on a, my first question, is this on a Mac or is it on a Windows?
Windows.
Yep. So what, this is just my 2 cents. I mean, I'm not a software programmer, but I have both a Mac and a Windows. And I run it on a Mac. I have absolutely zero problems. I run it on a Windows machine. And sometimes the thing just goes kind of nuts. And it's especially after there's a Windows update that Microsoft pushes out. So I think there's probably something in there sometimes it doesn't agree. But having said that, so just a couple of things from your explanation there. First, when you're running your machine and it starts doing something wonky like that, hit the pause button. There's a pause button, there's a stop button up at the top, or you can just hit reset and it'll
Yeah.
stop your sled instantly. So you won't go up, you won't crash, you won't bend your motor mounts and stuff like that. So when I run my machine, I'm within 2 to 3 feet of my computer at any given time, especially when I'm setting a Z or trying to calibrate a Z or something. I'm right next to my computer at all times anyway. So that's number one. That's more of a safety issue. Watch your machine, make sure you stop it before it starts doing anything too crazy. Okay. The second one is when your machine starts doing that, you have to unplug, shut down MakerVerse, and restart MakerVerse and clear your cache for your Windows or for your browser.
Okay, well, I did hit the reset button several times while it was doing this and it didn't affect it. It just kept going. And as far as resetting my cache and everything, I'm not connected to the internet on this computer.
Yeah,
So-
but the software still saves your general settings with it every time. So every time you log in, you notice that you have a workspace that you created in there. Your computer needs to remember that workspace, right? It gets its information from somewhere. So just what I'm saying, that's what I do, because I think MakerVerse does go out to the internet and it looks for any updates and stuff like that automatically. I think it does communicate. It has to. Patrick, you can validate or whatever on that, but any software does that. So I like to clear anything between my I guess my software and the network that it would be connected to. I clear all of that out. And then the next thing is that I go ahead and, like I said, I unplug the USB from my computer and I will shut down MakerVerse, start MakerVerse back up again and plug in the USB and start a new session. I keep the same profile. I still use the same workspace, but whatever issues I had tend to go away at that point.
Okay.
Does that make sense, or you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So when in doubt, reboot. That's what it comes down to, really. Do you happen to have a Mac laying around the house, or?
No.
Okay. That would be your second preference would be to try it on a Mac if you had one laying around. They're not cheap, I know that, but if you had one, I would load MakerVerse on that and run it that way.
Mm-hmm. Would second that for sure. But Bobby, you can certainly follow up on your existing ticket if it's still open, or just submit an email to support@MakerMade, and that will kick off a brand new ticket. I would just list the components that are bent or broken or damaged in any way, and then you can get with them and say that I mentioned possibly needing a new do board as a next step as well. But I do agree with Casey that ideally, try a reboot, like he said. Try some of the basics. You can do this right without actually attaching a sled to anything, and just see, are the motors even just turning as expected, right? Or are they going freestyle and back and forth still, right? In which case, yeah, it may be a combination of a Windows issue and a board issue, but definitely get that ticket going because we got to get that fixed for you for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry you're having these problems. Seeing a lot of this in Makerverse right now. We're really trying to get it resolved. We had a snag with updating every box to 15-foot drive chains, which is our next big step towards moving towards this 2.0 unit or platform. And so it's just proven a little bit of challenge there, but we're still working hard to get through to it. And hopefully that will resolve all of this. But in the interim, we got to get these issues fixed for you.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, we got Bob Jeffrey on here as well. Bob, how's it going?
Not bad. Can you guys hear me okay?
Can hear you just fine. What's
Okay,
up, Bob?
cool. Just hanging out, living the dream.
Just hanging out? You making anything fun this week?
Well, I'm building a queen bee. So yeah, I kind of put the MakerMade stuff on hold for a little bit until I get this thing done. But I had the COVID there for about a few weeks, so that knocked me out of sync for about a month. So
Yeah.
So just real quick, which queen bee are you building?
the same one you have, the 1500.
I was just curious.
Yeah. I don't have my camera going, but I got your video paused right behind me. So
Oh,
the clarity on that is better than what I'm looking at right now. So I don't understand that.
yeah.
That's a nice machine.
Yeah.
I never,
I'm hoping to run both of them, at the same time, just doing different projects, or maybe one assisting the other type deal. I don't know yet.
So I tell you what I do with mine, Bob. This is just me, right? I mean, it's my preference. It sounds odd, but I use the queen bee for the cutting. It's faster. Of course, it's going to be faster. But then I tend to use my M2 for all my laser.
Yeah.
Because I never laser anything that's like an 8-foot board, right? I mean, that, you know how long that would take you to laser anything that big. So generally what you end up lasering is either a logo or a picture on a box or, gift items like that. So I find that it's really nice to put that laser in the M2 and just hit it and go while I'm working on other things on the queen bee.
I was thinking about doing the exact same thing because I've got this glow forge. So
Yep.
if I can get rid of it and just do engravings with the MakerMade, that solves my glow forge problem because now I can cut with a different device. So
yeah, exactly. That's how I use them in tandem when I'm making gifts and stuff like that.
yeah, and I think I've got a couple of lasers laying around. I don't know how that works with the M2. I guess I just need to figure out if we need to buy a kit or if we can just kind of do a DIY setup or something. So,
Well, I think Patrick, the MakerMade company, they sell the 2.8 watt laser from JTech, and that's JTech. Right or wrong, maybe the price is a little bit up there for some people, but it is a well-known, successful brand. A lot of the ones that you go to eBay, I've tried a couple of those that you get online from China and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're just, I'll be honest with you, they're junk. So yeah. I have a few that are laying around here. They're actually in buckets or boxes because I started them. They burn out fast. The lenses are crap. Yeah. But the JTech lasers are real good quality. That's what I would stick with. If you're going to spend your money on something, spend it on something that's going to last. And they also have really good tech support that's right here in the US. So
you just using like a 5 watt?
The laser that I have for the M2 is a 2.8 watt laser. It's actually from MakerMade. So whenever you buy it from MakerMade, it actually comes with Patrick, you'll have to, correct me on this if I'm wrong, but it comes with a specific holder that you put the 2.8 watt laser in, and then it slides into your the bracket for your router. So you can actually just unscrew those bolts, pull your router out, slide the laser in, and you're rocking and rolling. You don't have to change anything on your M2, on your sled. I haven't for a long time.
I work with a lot of really, nice wood. And one of my concerns with that laser would be or even the CNC setup would be the scuff marks that the actual slide would make. Have you ran into anything like that? Have you seen any scuff marks or blue paint come off or anything like that? Okay.
No, on the bottom of your sled, there's no paint. So you're not going to get blue paint on any of your wood surface. But there is,
Can I go look?
yeah, there is a suggestion, and I do this probably about every 2 or 3 months. Just go to Lowe's and buy some Johnson's paste wax.
Yep.
And I go ahead and I rub on a thin coat on the bottom of the M2. And I rub it in really good so there's no excess laying on it. It's a thick paste. It's a wax, basically. And it doesn't come off on your cut surface. You can't see it. There's nothing there. But man, it makes the sled slide on your cut surface. It's like glass on. It's just smooth.
Okay, yeah, that's a great idea. I didn't even think of that. So I actually make my own stuff for wax stuff or wood whenever I finish it out. It's pretty easy. So
Yeah, there you go. I mean, the Johnson's paste wax is what I use. I use that on my table saw for my sleds. I make my own homemade sleds and everything, and I use that for everything.
yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate the input. Unrelated, but I sent you a message in Messenger earlier, so just heads up.
Well, it just showed up.
Yeah, T-Mobile. But you know, this too, I really like it. I really like the size and the ability to do large things. Cutting. We did a couple of dinosaurs and a big Sasquatch a couple weeks ago for some customers, and they seemed to really like it. And you know, it wasn't really too bad on the cutout time on a 3/8" piece of material. So I'll probably dual purpose that, you know, just depending on what I'm working on with that Queen Bee. So, but no, I really like it.
Yep.
And I think I've got it dialed in now. I was having some issues where it seemed like it was, you know, if you cut 4 squares, 10" 20" and all that, it was kind of growing exponentially horizontally. And I finally think I got that corrected.
Was it your motor distance?
No, I went through and I did everything. So it could have been. Just redid it all, you know, the measuring and all that. The only thing I did not do was weigh it. So I need to do that.
Yeah, that is helpful.
I think I think one of the things that we got to watch out for is people are really getting out of hand with how much weight they're putting on their sled. I seen in a post a while back, somebody was like, yeah, I'm putting 29 pounds on my sled. Man, those motors are not rated for that. You know, it's just the motors, the chains, the sprockets. I mean, all those weights are supposed to do is help the sled rotate and stay rotated. It doesn't have to stay at 90 degrees perpendicular to the top beam at all times. That's why there's a ring with rollers. It's designed to give a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when people start talking, I still use the 2 bricks. The 2 bricks are more than sufficient, and I get beautiful work out of mine.
Yeah.
It's more about the accuracy of the weight than anything. Get plugging that in correctly.
Yeah, I'll do that this week. And then the other modification I think I'm going to make is across the bottom. I've got a little, it's like a 1x3 or 1/2 inch by 3 inch by 8 foot long board, you know, to set the material on top. But what I noticed with some of those bigger dinosaurs is the sled was hitting it because my material was actually thinner than what that was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about reducing that down to a piece of 1/4 inch or something. Just that way I'll make sure that the sled never hits it on its way down. So
Yeah, I tend to stack, you know, sheets under my work surface if I run into that problem. But yeah, that works too.
no,
You can also just do
good idea. Stacking up something behind it.
Yeah, right. Because also that that skirt on the bottom using a thicker piece of wood is helpful to just keep the bottom of the frame straight and true, right?
If I was using a 4x8 sheet of plywood, what would you put on the back of it to keep it that way? I mean, like strips of furring strips or something?
You need to cut all the way to the edge of it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I cut out a 6.5 foot tall Sasquatch the other day. I mean, its arms were out pretty close to about 3 inches to the ends of the wood. So.
If you're cutting if you're cutting a full sheet like that, then typically with that, I would say, yeah, just maybe reduce the thickness. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll set it on there, and then I'll just take my bottom skirt off. I'll just unscrew it and just take it off, and then just let that sled run around. If it's not getting all the way to the edge.
Yeah, because then you could just mount the wood up there with it, and then after you mount the plywood, then take off the bottom. That's what you're saying, right? So
Exactly. I do that sometimes too.
Yeah, that's I like that idea even better.
Yeah, I've remounted my bottom skirt many times for that reason. So yeah, but for smaller pieces, I would say stack something behind and just whatever scrap you got around, as long as it's bigger than your work surface, you're good. Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's about all I had. I mean, I've just been trying to recover. I've had that COVID kicked the whole family's butt, and I've had projects stack up, and I'm still dealing with it. So I think I'm on the downhill side of it though.
Oh, it's good to hear, Bob. I had it, I got it on my anniversary with my wife. And so we ended up having to sleep in different rooms that night because she didn't have it. So, and then she got it the next day, of course.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, the thing that threw me off with it was the insane headache. I've never had headaches that bad before in my entire life. But other than that, it felt like just a really bad flu symptoms. But but hell, I still can't smell or taste. It's been a month and a half. Yeah.
Dang. That long COVID, that sucks, Bob. I was fortunate. I got through pretty quick. But I got a brother-in-law who's in the military, and he's been laid low by it over the last week. I mean, he's gotten all his boosters, and he's at home on the couch. He can't do anything. So
that's going to affect his breathing and everything with PT and all that stuff, I bet, long term.
Exactly. It's yeah.
It's bad. Hell, I walked out to the mailbox the other day. It's a couple hundred feet, and I felt like I ran a marathon. Well, that's not the purpose of this meeting, guys. I'm sorry.
Well, we're glad to hear you're feeling better, or you're on the mend. It sounds like. Really glad to hear that, Bob.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Christine?
Yeah, Christine's iPhone.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm kind of new to this. I have originally a year ago, I got a laser machine. Started my journey of cutting wood. And for Christmas, my boyfriend got me a Maslow MakerMade, the original.
The basic.
And then, I'm sorry?
Is it the basic kit? Did it come in
The
a small like a
basic.
box? Yeah, okay.
Yes, the basic kit. And so since December, I've been trying to get this machine running. I do have a MacBook Pro. And when I got to the point I had done all of the calibrating, and I got to the point to where I cut my final sled. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, you're good.
When I cut my final sled, I got an oval and not a circle. So I'm not sure what setting would have caused that to happen. And so when I got into some of the forums for Maslow, someone said, oh, probably because you're using a Mac. So I went out and I bought a Windows computer, and that's not working. I was using ground control, and I have since changed to Makerverse. But Makerverse, I did this weekend. I tried getting the machine to work, but I'm not really sure what I'm doing wrong. I'm getting, I mean, it's been since December, and I'm not giving up because it was a gift, and I don't want him to think. I mean, he built the frame for me and everything, and I don't want to give up, but I am getting to the point to where I'm like, I can't get the machine to move now with the Makerverse. So I'm not sure what step I'm missing. I downloaded the firmware. I did do a ticket. They told me to download the correct firmware. So I'm not sure where to go.
So at first
for
you were having a
me.
problem with ground control where you were cutting ovals. And now you're on Makerverse and you can't get it to even run the machine. Are you getting is the board lighting up? Are you getting connection? In what way can you not get the machine to move? Can you not get it to
It,
connect?
it is making a connection, and when I'm not with the machine right now, I am at work. When I would try to get the machine to move, because there was somewhere where you moved it and then you had to measure to see how much it moved. I don't remember what that was. I couldn't get it to move. I was hitting the button and it didn't move. So I'm like, I can hear the machine trying to move, but it wasn't moving.
So can I ask a question real quick?
Absolutely.
Christine, were you doing this this was going on in calibration, is what it sounds like, right? You were trying to calibrate the
Correct.
machine.
Correct.
Okay. So when it said, when you have to move the machine and then measure it, that was where you had already moved the chains up to the center. You pulled them down, you reconnected the sled, and you're supposed to measure from the sled to the top of the wasteboard. That's the area where it just wouldn't move.
Right.
Okay, so it was moving before. You were able to move the chains up to center, make sure
Right.
everything was centered there. What happened was when you're running your system like that, sometimes you trip in the background. You don't notice it, and there's, for some reason, when we do in the calibration area, it doesn't tell you it happened. But whenever you trip your soft limits, it just stops. And you can sit there and hit all the buttons you want, and it's not going to do
Yeah.
anything. Okay. So what you have to do is you have to hit reset up at the top and then go again, because and then try to go the opposite direction, because somehow the calculation in the background, everybody understands that the soft limits don't work correctly. They never have. It's a calculation of where the sled is on the board, and it just doesn't work. So most people disable their soft limits. If you go on the left-hand side of the screen, go into settings, scroll down, you'll see one that says soft limits. Okay.
Okay.
Type in 0 there and then click the little save disk, and that'll disable your soft limits. Now, keep in mind, now you've disabled your soft limits. The thing can go anywhere that you tell it to. And I have seen people tell it to go where it shouldn't. So you can have crashes, right? But what it'll do is it stops that from happening while you're trying to do your calibration. So my guess is your system tripped the soft limits, and it's going to stop because it thinks you're running the board off the sled, or the sled off the board, or whatever.
Right.
So either leave your soft limits on and go ahead and hit reset. But the problem is, if you do that, the system already thinks something's wrong. So it's just going to keep tripping those soft limits.
So my next question is, and that's really great information, thank you, is, so I switched to a Windows computer. Should I switch back to the MacBook Pro and download the Makerverse on there and then do the calibration on the MacBook Pro?
Yeah, and one more thing, just to make sure you're doing it. Just since you download the firmware, you download the firmware to your computer, right? Make sure you then transfer that firmware from your computer onto the do board. I've seen a lot of people that are enter tickets and they ping me and ask me questions, and come to find out they just downloaded the firmware. Well, the firmware needs to be uploaded then to your do board. It doesn't do any good on your computer. It needs to be uploaded to the board.
Okay, is there, so not to sound ignorant or anything, so once I downloaded the firmware, I went in and unzipped it or whatever I had done. What is the process then, just to make sure that I either did it or did not do it?
Yeah.
How do you upload it?
So we actually have somebody that does that and helps people with that all the time. Mike Garza. Enter a help desk ticket. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the Facebook page, put, at Mike Garza, whatever, and it'll literally ping him whenever you submit that question. Have Mike walk you through that. He'll walk you through screen by screen, click by click, to make sure you download the latest version, then you download the firmware, you update the firmware, and then load it to the do board. He'll walk you through that whole process.
Okay. All right.
And
Yeah.
there are some videos out there. I used to have a link to it. I don't have it anymore, but I mean, I downloaded Makerverse a year and a half ago, and I don't remember what the firmware screen looked like whenever I uploaded it. So sorry. It's been a
Well,
while.
it's okay. I'm gonna, when I go home tonight, I'll just switch everything back over to the MacBook Pro and see where I get with that, and then look for videos. I do, you know, like with the laser machine that I have, you know, I was able to, you know, get that up and running pretty quickly. So, you know, I feel like I'm getting defeated by this machine, and I understand that it's, you know, you're building it. It's not like you get something from, you know, Boss Laser and it's all ready to go. I get that, but I feel like I should have gotten somewhere by now, and I haven't. So I'm getting frustrated.
Yeah, a couple things. So the basic kit is definitely the most challenging. Like that's essentially the original Maslow, and MakerMade's goal has been to help improve that or simplify that process so that more people can have access to it, because it's a bear. So but the second thing I'll say is, if you got to the point where you were cutting out an oval instead of a circle, you're really close. All right. So there's something in your settings there, your frame geometry, or how you went through the calibration. You need to go back and check that again, but you're really close there. That's now down to calibration at that point.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I
So, yeah. That's
And
one
the
of us could
reason,
have gotten there and fixed that in a few minutes, probably. So it's just learning how to get that done and what part you messed up.
Right. And switching to the Windows computer just did not help me. So I'm like, maybe I just need to go back to the MacBook Pro.
So yeah, the Windows that's more for like old ground control. That's kind of an old ground control. But for
okay.
Makerverse, the person who was designing this Makerverse did it primarily through Mac. So through Apple.
Okay.
So I would recommend sticking with the Pro.
Okay. I'll be switching.
and once you do your calibration on your system, the third thing I wanted to say about your explanation there when you were talking a little bit earlier is the reason why you're cutting ovals is usually because your waste board and your top beam are not perfectly square, or your waste board is bowed a little bit, or the top beam is bowed. So just take a couple of looks at those. But 99% of the time, the reason why we cut ovals is because the beams are not square. Remember, the motors are mounted on those top beam. And if you have your top beam like this, and your bottom where the board you're cutting is sitting like this, they're not sitting angle. So of course your circle is going to be skewed with that board.
Yeah, it's a
sense?
little weird. Yeah, it's a little weird though, because it didn't look right. Now I do have to say my boyfriend is very particular, so I'd be surprised if the frame is not squared. He's one of those, you know, measure twice, cut once kind of person. So I will go home and check that and see if that is the problem. It very well could be. Yeah, that would be an easy fix. I just thought maybe I had measured something wrong, and have a wrong measurement in there.
It could be as well.
Yeah, so
I'll right. Yeah, I would check that first too.
Yeah, so
I'll
switch back to the MacBook Pro, download Makerverse on there, because what's on there is ground control. So I'll delete that and then start all over with the Makerverse and get with Mike. Yeah, I made
definitely
notes.
Get with Mike.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Of course, Christine.
I'm looking forward to making something wonderful. I get really excited when I, start cutting something and then it was like an oval. I'm like, I got an oval.
Hey, I was one of the original backers for the old Maslow with ground control and everything, and I got my first oval cut out that was supposed to be a circular sled, and it's that combination of oh my gosh and wait, this isn't right. So, I've been there too. Like it is a challenge. It's why I started this company, was to help make it simpler. So hopefully we can get you there. Mike's great at it too. So I know we
Okay,
can
great.
make it happen.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Now,
We got Lauren on here. We got,
what would really help first starters like Christine and myself would be if they would put out a series of short YouTube videos on step by step on how to calibrate this.
Casey, do you think we should release a step-by-step series of videos on how to calibrate? What is your opinion on that one? I certainly don't have one at all.
That sounds like a really good idea.
If you guys can't catch our dripping sarcasm here, we have been in communication with Casey, and Casey's going to start doing a series just like that, Bobby. We are all fully aware and big fans of Casey's incredible capacity to explain this in terms that are just no nonsense, straightforward, easy to track, right? And I'm really excited to see how that goes, because you're right. You're 100% right. That's exactly what we need. So Casey's been kind enough to partner with us to get that going. So hope to see
All
more.
right,
coming
Casey,
very
I'm
soon.
looking at you now.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
100%.
Yeah, we're getting there. Just lots of things going on, folks. And the videos I'm going to make, I'm going to do one on. There'll be multiple videos, but the first one will be that you'll see deployed here. I'm hoping shortly will be preparation for calibration. We never hear anybody talk about properly preparing for a calibration. There's certain things you should do to this system before you ever hit that calibrate button. So nobody ever talks about that, but these are little tips and tricks I've found over the years that work for me, and I do it consistently now. And what's funny is I see on the Facebook page, somebody says, "Oh, recalibrate." And somebody goes, "Oh my God, really? You want me to I can recalibrate in less than 5 minutes. It takes me no problem, but I'm set up to do it. I know I got to do it quite a bit, right? So A, it's the prep, and then B, it's the steps, and C, knowing what boxes you have to enter data into, and then understanding exactly what kind of accuracy do you need. I'm cutting out Sasquatches, like Bob was talking about. Do you need 1 millimeter of accuracy to do that? No, 5 millimeters would be just fine for somebody that cuts out, Easter eggs and paints them and sells them or anything. 5 millimeters is fine. If you're making furniture or cabinetry, you probably want 1 millimeter. So it's having realistic expectations and needs. So it's going to be all about all of that stuff, folks.
I think, Christine, what Casey's saying is that you could start an Easter egg business right now with your existing setup.
My ovals, yes.
It's right around the corner.
That's what I was trying to do.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one.
Hey,
Yeah.
when you said you cut an oval, I thought, well, hey, be happy it's an oval and not a square.
Not a square, exactly.
I have
Exactly. I'm more a hobbyist. I don't own a business and I don't sell what I make. I give a lot of it away.
Yep. Same with me.
Excellent.
I make furniture. I make cutting boards. I make all kinds of stuff, and usually they get stacked up in the corner for Christmas later on that year, or it's something that a friend wants. Hey, well, I've always wanted a dresser, right? Or I've always wanted this. And okay, yeah. So I don't sell anything. Everything I make is just usually given away or whatever.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just like to make things. They've always been that way, and it just keeps growing, and that's where the Maslow comes in. The laser wasn't making big enough things, so my boyfriend thought it was just a good idea to buy this for me instead of a $10,000 or $12,000 laser machine.
What kind of laser cutter do you have, Christine?
I have a Boss laser right now, but the smaller one, the hobbyist one. I wished I had saved a little more money and gotten a bigger one, but if I can get the Maslow working, then that's going to fit my needs perfectly.
That's great. Good.
I think the Maslow is the biggest laser out there on the market. If you look
Exactly.
at items there, I mean, you can get up to a 3x3, etc. But even a 4 foot by 4 foot laser is massive, and I can't think of a hobby level laser that big, let alone a 4x8 laser that
Right.
you use as a CNC. So from a laser standpoint, I mean, the MakerMade system is massive. It is literally massive. Now, having said that, it takes a while to laser items. Well, the bigger the surface, the longer it takes to laser something.
Totally. Exactly.
I mean, it's the nature of the beast. I mean, I made some large signs I posted on Facebook and stuff, and those things took 6-7 hours to laser, but they were 3 foot by 6 foot,
Yeah.
solid lasered items. It took forever, but that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Casey, we launched that laser only kit now. It's essentially taking the old Jumpstart kits and then just adding the JTech laser to it. But it's not really doing much right now. I thought it was going to be like, yeah, world's biggest hobbyist laser engraver. Like, heck yeah. Like, I thought people were going to love it. I don't know if we're not advertising it correctly or what.
Well, you think about it. Most people don't get into lasering until after they get into CNC. So they're not looking at the laser. They want to cut some wood. So you guys offer that laser in two different ways. You can either you advertise well that says, hey, we got a 4 foot by 8 foot CNC, the biggest DIY on the market, right? That's wall mounted, especially. And then just for a few $100, you can add a laser. So that's what everybody goes after is, hey, I want the CNC first, then I'll go after the laser. So I seen that when you guys advertise that, our first laser only unit, I'm thinking, everybody wants, they need the Z-axis tower and everything else like that. So they're not, I don't know, if I was a consumer, I wouldn't, just to be honest.
It's true. So part of the reason we went down this route is like, if you look at actual search volume on Google and other places, it's like 2x for laser engraver what it is for CNC. So I was like, oh, okay. At the very least, we'll bring in another demographic or a new part of the market, but it hasn't happened like that yet.
Well, that's my goal, is to eventually get the laser. But right now, I'm afraid I might cut my frame in half.
Don't worry, it's not that powerful. This isn't
until I get it calibrated and up and going. You
definitely don't want it to break itself in half while you got a laser attached to it. That's for sure. All right.
You feel like that some of that market you're not getting because the laser's power doesn't really cut the wood; it just engraves only.
No.
Thought about that too.
I don't. I think you get a lot more people that want to do laser engraving than laser cutting, right?
Yeah.
I rarely hear anybody that says I want to cut. And then when I do read the posts about people that want to cut, they want to cut 1/2-inch wood or 3/4 inch plywood. It's like, really? I'm sorry, they don't have a 300-watt laser for you. I mean, it doesn't work that way. Lasers.
I wouldn't trust you with it.
Yeah, lasers usually cut very thin ply. I mean, I got a 7-watt laser from JTech to cut 5-ply. Oh, what was that? A little over 1/8 inch, I think it was. But it took 23 passes to do it. So you have to, I could have cut that in one pass with a 1/2-inch bit with a CNC. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, to answer Patrick's question there a little earlier, people want to put the CNC and the laser together. They can cut one thing and then go ahead and laze a picture on it with the other, but they know they can't. Most people know they can't laser through 3/4 inch ply. So they need both. So they'll spend the extra money, get the Mac Daddy CNC first, and then come in 4 or 5 months later after they get Makerverse and everything under their belt, then they'll go ahead and throw in the laser.
Smart way to do it. Yeah, it is really like that laser has just exploded the creative side of this tool for me. It's where I love, the cutting's fun, but it's a lot of fun. But the laser gets so creative. That's where you add design and I don't know. It's just I've just had such a blast with it. I thought it was going to do more on its own, but that makes sense.
So
have
can
a
I
quick-
ask a question? The laser part of that you're talking about, because
Mhm.
I'm not familiar with it, is that something I could use on the Maslow I have, the original? No.
But you need, well, you can, the basic setup would work, but you would need to upgrade to the do board is the
Okay.
only challenge there. So what you would need in that instance, we had somebody request this week. They had a basic Maslow. Part of the challenge, so there's two main challenges. One is you need to upgrade to the do board, which we sell standalone, no problem there. But two, you need to buy, like the kit that we sell as a standalone for the laser is intended for the M2 version, which is where the laser actually rests in your router clamp, like what Casey was talking about earlier.
Right.
But for you don't have that Z-axis and you don't have that router clamp. So you would need the actual standalone laser mount that mounts right in the inside the circle. It's all good, Casey. Yep. Thanks for all the help, Casey. So we had somebody request that this week because we don't sell that standalone. So it would just require a little bit of finagling, but yeah, we can make that work for sure.
Okay, yeah, once I can get it running, because like you, I like doing the engraving.
Mhm.
I do cut, my laser's a 70-watt laser.
Mhm.
And it cuts through, I started with 1/8 inch Baltic birch on my laser. And then I just tried this week, I went up to 1/4 inch and it cut through 1/4 inch. So I was like, yay, I can do 1/4 inch,
Excellent.
but I don't think it would go through anything more than that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I've got
yeah.
a Glow Forge and it maxes out at 1/4 inch
Yeah,
typically. So yeah, but no, that's and also you got to think though, when you can cut 1/4 inch, even if it's not as thick as you want, you can start stacking those. Right.
exactly.
And
Yep.
and that makes it, I mean, that gets to be a lot of fun too. You can make something pretty sturdy. You can swap, just like the ply. You can then like reverse the orientation with them and make them even stronger. So there's a lot of ways you can work around the thinness issue or the cut thickness issue with the laser as well.
Exactly.
I've
All right.
got another, I'm sorry, go ahead, Christine.
No, I was just I'm gonna get off of the call. I am at work, so I'm gonna get back to work. I do have a real job, not just a hobby.
All right, Godspeed with your
Which I
issues,
always-
Christine. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah, I always say my job it interferes with what I really love to do.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for all of your help, everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Christine.
All right. Bye-bye.
Now, does MakerMade have a Z-axis probe?
No, not right now.
Because I noticed on the Makerverse, it mentions that.
Right. So exactly. We've accommodated it for future state. But we don't actually sell one right now. The closest thing so what we use right now, or what we recommend for that, is just the camera from Oblique Design that's on our website. It just gives you a first, a fisheye lens view of exactly that bit when it touches. So it is still analog, still manual in that sense, but it works extremely well for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I've used Z probes. They're great, right? They're automated. They're nice. It's more of right now we haven't launched it because the price point doesn't really quite fit the product price point, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think you've answered all of my questions for the day.
Cool. Sounds good. I'm real sorry you're continuing to have these issues, Bobby. I hate hearing that.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely open up a ticket and try to get some more help that way.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Lauren, how's it going, man?
Oh, living the dream.
Yeah.
I got on a little late today. I always like to tune in, just here to see what's going on in the community.
You're not having to call in from Ukraine or something, are you?
Not yet. We'll see what happens when the Olympics end.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
not at this point. I always, I don't add too much on the Facebook. I'm always trying to figure out how these issues occur. I was gonna feed in, but didn't want to stop the questions. The laser is awesome, but the real problem that I see from a manufacturing standpoint from actually using it is that no matter if you use the laser, at some point you still have to cut out the design.
Mhm.
So if it can only engrave, like it's going to end at some point, and then you have to go in. And what I was surprised is when we see hobbyist CNCs, most of them don't have, like, I assumed a lot of them would actually have like full woodwork shops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't. So it's really just a matter of that you have to have the exact size you want to cut. You know what I mean?
So yeah, so I've thought about this a little bit. My perspective on it was thinking about like what it takes to cut with the M2, not just the process on the physical M2 or the Maslow itself, but like even staging the file, understanding the process of tabbing material, understanding inside versus outside the line, depth per pass, right? There are so many ways that the CNC side is more complicated than the laser side. And so what I was kind of thinking would happen is people would go, oh, I can access the laser engraver real easily. And then the hard stuff, which is the CNC cutting, I'll just go cut it out by hand still. I'll use my hand router to go do that, right? So it can create jigs for you if you want to hand route or you run it through a table saw after the fact. But that's kind of how I had imagined it. But we may not be expressing that fact clearly either. Because going through the process of importing an SVG into Lightburn and then exporting that into Makerverse is so much easier and streamlined than trying to do the easel and the full CNC route, at least in my opinion and experience.
No, getting into laser is significantly easier in process.
Right.
I mean, you gotta think about it, there's no bits, there's no routers, there's none of that stuff. But
Right.
the challenge that I see with the machine as it is right now is that sled, because there's two ways you go about it. You either cut it out or before or after.
Mhm.
And if you cut it out before, hopefully you already have your center point marked on your piece. Because if it's a circle or an oval, that's a bit of a challenge, right? To find that exact center point.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, if you're cutting anywhere near the edge of that piece, how do you block it and brace it in? So for me, cutting all the outside comes out last.
Yeah.
If there was a way to build it, see, I don't know. It's how do you build something that, because the laser does so much better when it comes to those fine lines and designs.
It does,
And for the
doesn't it?
most part, yeah, unless you're running a bigger sign business, like the laser is going to be what you need, because I do a lot of V-carve, a lot more than I ever thought I would do. And yeah, when it comes into tiny V-carve, especially with plywood, there's no point in it because there's too much frizz. There's too many issues with it, where the laser can do it just fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, have y'all done a lot of testing with that new laser only design? Does it go pretty quickly? Does it work pretty fast?
I mean, it's the
issues?
it's the exact same performance as the M2 version.
Because when I saw that piece, honestly, for what it is, it almost made more sense to, instead of having to drop it into the actual router, because the way it just sits at the bottom of the circle, it almost makes sense that in the future you just basically remove your clamp and just install the laser straight onto the sled. Because I was like, man, that's so much faster than having to set the depth or any of that. You know what it is. You already have your laser set.
Exactly. That was the whole point of this kit, is essentially to, think about a school. We have a lot of schools who try and buy, especially the basic kits, right? Because they're cheaper and they're like, well, this is DIY. We can learn it as a team. But then they get into it and they're like, holy cow, this is challenging. So for a group like that, the laser engraver, it's like, boop, just set it in there, foolproof. It's already, pre-calibrated to the 1/8 inch. It needs to be offset. Like it's a lot less chance for error, right?
Right. And the challenging thing, because when I heard y'all were going to schools, I was like, that's brilliant, right? The challenging thing is I remember what those classes are like. The teachers are running, I think it's like East Labs or whatever it is, that are running these things aren't exactly like This isn't what they do. They're not always the technological savvy person. They're just a teacher they put in that class to oversee it as the student learns. When in reality, you need a combination of a computer lab teacher with an ag teacher to know how to do one of these. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
so you need a combination of talents to really do one of these. Because I'll be honest, like if I had an ag class, I would buy one of these for the ag class, right? Because woodworking and those kind of things are right up that kind of alley. Being able to install a plasma torch on it is right up that alley, you know? But yeah.
It's but you're right. It is kind of like a full spectrum project, right? And that's one of the things that's so challenging about this and why we're trying to make it so much easier for folks is that you got to know graphic design. You got to know a little bit about coding and certainly a lot about computers. You got to know a lot about or something about woodworking, right? There's a lot of layers to this.
No, there really is.
Anybody who can do it's pretty impressive.
It's the big challenge that I see it as is just regulating those expectations up front. And I think y'all are heading the right direction, like continuing to simplify the process, right? The only challenge you run into, the biggest challenge that I had in the entire process actually was the duo board. And I did get it right, even though Mike Garza, like when I had the power issue, he came back and confirmed it. I did get it right. But it's not as simple. Like I've purchased like the new CNC I purchased when it arrived, and the streamline of keeping it updated, the duo board is very simple. Like it automatically does it. That's the challenge I see is like keeping that, like it should, for me, I think that duo board should arrive when you purchase it, ready to go. That's the only thing that I think from the start should happen.
Well, yeah, so now they do. So yours didn't, I know that, but now they do arrive ready to roll.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, but now the challenge we're having today is that Makerverse is giving all kinds of issues. So yeah, it's
well, see, I honestly, the other thing I see is right now, so in the software, right, it reminds me every day, hey, you can upgrade your software. I wouldn't have that. Like there needs to be a certain audience that's like, hey, that receives that, you know what I'm saying, of experienced users, but the average user should be probably 3 or 4 versions behind, so that when it's stabilized, it will automatically jump it to that next level. But to be fair, like I think I'm running 1.1 or 1.3.1 or whatever because of what I need it to do.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I'll download it and go back and try the newer one and see where it's at as y'all continue to update it. But for the most part, 90% of the users don't even need 3.
Yeah, they don't.
And what they see is like, oh, download the newest version, and they just click, and then next thing you know.
That's a good point. I didn't really thought about it like that. We should not be telling people to download the newest version. 1.1.3 should be at that should be the one they're on, unless they have a preference for, like, you know, we had somebody on last week or whatever that's like, I like 1.1.2, and we were all like, don't change, leave it where it's at.
Exactly, right? Because if it's working for you, don't change it. I'm really not sure. I don't know. I mean, obviously, a lot of these things will just change dramatically when you roll out the newer version.
Yeah.
I think if you can get there, it's going to change dramatically. I mean, you're always going to have. I am still surprised. I'm not really surprised, but I am. How many people come on that have the original Maslow, and I'm betting money did not buy it through Makerverse. They found y'all after the fact.
Yeah, and we're the ones here helping them.
Because I did buy the Jumpstart kit from y'all, but I didn't. I almost bought it from someone else before I found MakerMade. But hindsight is always 20/20. Like I would have never bought the Jumpstart version if I knew how much of a difference the Z-axis made, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I still have my original sled from the Jumpstart version, and let me tell you, the amount of modifications I did to that thing to make it effective for me was crazy.
The bungee, it's insane. Yeah,
I probably purchased $20 or $30 worth of parts just to customize it to make it do what I wanted it to do. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like I'll probably end up I don't know. I've considered actually keeping it and turning it into a full-fledged router table. Just taking that way I can move my router out. But it's kind of just one of those things like, I don't know. It's trying to drive that market because there's always going to be people that want it. And it does do a great job for what it is. But I feel like there's so many people that come in with just the expectation that they're going to get a thousandth of a millimeter accuracy.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like a funny story. So I was doing some test cuts on my new machine, and it's a gantry machine, right? So I was like, well, let's see what it can do. So I had to run at 120 inches per minute, which, yeah, it cuts fast. But for the most part, what nobody talks about is a lot of the woods, even if you cut it that fast, the wood, when you do it, it has a ripping effect. So it actually, like, you don't need to cut that fast, like more like 70 to 75 inches per minute is really where it's at.
Yeah, some of these machines are built to run at like 300, 1,000 inches a minute, but you are actually limited by the speed the bit can go before it
And the
breaks, as
material.
well as the wood before it rips.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
So it's
So,
like, why are
like,
you building it up to that pace?
yeah, because I was like looking online to even commercial. A lot of them don't really push beyond 120. There's some of them that'll push into the 300s if the material allows for like certain MDF.
Yeah,
But they're
exactly.
also running, $500 bits and things like that, right? To me, the biggest complaint on the backside that I've had an upgraded machine for smaller applications, if we could get, because I still think it's there, I think it's in the software. If you could get the M2 closer to 60 inches per minute, because 60 inches per minute is pretty quick. And the motors can handle the weight. It's just getting the stepper motors where it's no longer skipping steps and the software to understand it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's too much of a reach to get that there.
I think we could, but to me, almost if the end goal there is faster projects, right? If the end goal is I want to complete a project sooner, then to me, the more direct route is G-code optimization layered. So if you're just not going from here to there to there to there, right? And you're going here to here to here to here to here to here, and you're working your way down stepwise, right? That's actually going to speed things up even more than that 60 inches a minute. Although both would be options, right? I think.
Right. No, you're not wrong.
I see Dustin agreeing there. It sounds like, or looks like.
Because depending on how you put your G code or you get your G code, it will do that. What I've found is that the difference between easel and Carbide Create is one of them has a better like hidden functions, right? That function to slow down before a turn is better than easel. However, Carbide Create has a better seamless process moving across the project. But it also very much depends on how you put it in the cut. Because an easel, right? Unless you buy the pro version, it's very general. You basically select the whole cut or you have to build in all the tiny pieces. No, I can make a massive design in Carbide Create and select one piece at a time to cut out. And then individual, that's very much user driven. But at the end of the day, if it's just a simple cut, it's not so bad. But when you get into like large pocketing and pocket cuts, man, it doesn't matter. They just take time.
They just take time.
And I was thinking about it now. The biggest reason why I say it needs to go faster isn't the fact that 20 minutes versus 40 minutes. It's when you start breaking into those hour-long cuts or 2 or 3 hour long cuts, because now we're seeing more and more people that are like, yeah, I had a 3 hour long cut. The computer cut off. I had a power issue. The chance of that happening, if you could cut it down to an hour and a half, is much less. I had when I first started out, I had a couple of cuts like that. I had a circle that was going to take hour and 15 minutes and had a power issue, and the entire, the whole neighborhood went out of power. And guess what? I had to restart the whole thing. Yeah. But it's frustrating at the end of the day, right? But if I could have cut that in half, the chance of that happening is way less.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's the only concern I have is because honestly, my longest cut has been 3.5 hours. I've never broke that. Now I'm cutting faster than at most people than at 35 to 40 inches per minute. But like these people that I see running at 15 inches per minute, good Lord. That means they're going at a third of my speed.
Yeah, that's yeah, they're leaving in some, or they're cutting it like, using a 1/4 inch bit and only taking off a 16th at a time, kind of thing. And it's just like, oh, you're taking
And
forever.
they don't understand that all they're doing is creating massive amounts of dust, like,
Yeah,
because the bit's
right.
barely cutting. So I don't know. I just think they're, and I've really thought, I think I need to, it's almost like there needs to be a feeds and speeds. I almost posted it because like Amana Bits publishes a good feeds and speeds page.
Ooh, yeah. So yeah.
But there's so much potential to the machine, and it's almost like it's just, that's the thing about Facebook. Social media marketing can be destroyed with just a few people coming on. Because the 90% isn't posting, right? It's that 10% that's like, what is wrong with this machine? It's got so many issues.
Exactly. We are working
it's
on
frustrating for me because I'm a fan of the machine. And I mean, obviously, like I'm not making money off of it. If I'm a fan of the machine, I'm like, they just don't understand the weakness of it and what the reality is.
Yeah, I'll add on that one. There was a guy this week on the forum group that was like listing all the problems with the the machine, and I was asking him questions trying to figure it out, and he finally showed pictures, and it was the old original Maslow, and he was saying like there's problems with the box and there's problems with and I'm like, all of that stuff's been resolved with the M2.
Yeah.
But he kept posting every single one of his problems. I'm like, I don't understand. So are you guys still selling that original version?
We sell the basic kit. It's not the original.
Okay.
It's a slight upgrade versus that, but it's pretty close.
Is it still with the white box and everything like that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering if maybe there's some things that
maybe we promised to continue selling that as a promise to the original creator.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so one thing I've been pushing for is that the basic kit should just have an upgrade to a DO board. Like, without question, that needs to be a thing that happens. So I think we can make that happen. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough because people will post things not fully knowing what they're doing. Or like we've been getting posts recently where people are like, I haven't gotten a response from anybody. And like, we go look at the ticket log and it's like, we called you 3 times and you didn't answer your phone. But we're not going to be petty and say that in the group. We're going to, try and be, I don't know, whatever the word is, PC about it or something.
Has there been any movement towards doing like a convention or a meetup or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I mean I've wanted to do that forever. But just with COVID, it's made it tough. But now, I think probably the best thing for us to do would be let's pick a maker fair somewhere around the US and let's do that. Like
because I think it would be up. I'm all about it, and especially if like, hey, you got like, I'll put it this way. I would come even if you just got me free tickets into the fair, and I would show up and be like, hey, these makers are going to show up. We'll build 2 or 3. The makers will bring their computers, and then we'll bring, like, y'all ship the machines and we build them on site, the different versions. You know what I'm saying? Like we come there.
We did that at Jimmy DiResta's event a few years ago, and it was awesome. We just like got there, set up the frame, and everybody's like, no way in hell that's going to work. And then like by the end of the day, it was cutting everything out, and they were just like, okay, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. It's pretty sweet. I would, definitely. I would take some time to go do something like that.
Heck yeah, that would be so much fun. I mean, I'd host one here. We're centrally located in the U.S., so wouldn't be hard to host one here and just say like, hey, whoever's a fan, like if you want to come out here, let's get together, let's have some drinks and talk shop. And
I've done so much. I may as well be a part-time handyman. Like even when I came home on Christmas to Central Arkansas, like I packed 2 tough boxes worth of tools and helped build, family stuff. They just needed household projects fixed and things like that. So for me to pack up and be like, all right, let's go do this thing. Like I love doing that kind of thing.
Right on.
So I think it's a great idea. I think I told you I'm headed to Florida here in a few months. So I'll be down in the warmth again, out of the cold. But
So,
yeah, I mean, I'll only be like 8-9 hours from Arkansas, so it ain't gonna be as bad as like I'm sitting at with like close
Yeah.
to 15.
I'd
But,
love to make it happen. I would love to
Yeah.
make that happen for sure. Keep
Yeah.
keep bugging me about that one, Lauren, because I seriously like that would be so much fun. That'd be so cool.
It's a heck of a haul, but I do also know like a ton of makers are in Texas. So like
Mhm.
Houston area, a lot of the larger cities, I'm sure have a ton. I was actually surprised. It was funny because a guy, I mean, I'm acquaintances and not that close with him, but I've known him. They live just down the road from me, and I got on y'all's website and realized he was on there and had one as well. And I was like, oh wow, like
Nice.
yeah, out
Oh,
in
we
rural.
also we just found a plug-in actually, I think. So when we launch this new marketplace, don't hold me to this yet because I don't know if it'll fully go, but it looks like we can get it where the marketplace will be able to assign you like local makers based on geography, right? So if you need help, you can go through there and it'll be like, oh, this is the maker who's closest to you. You know, Lauren's only 30 miles away, so he can help with whatever. Or, you know, you need somebody to actually manufacture something for you, or you want to actually sell finished goods on the MakerMade marketplace. Who's the closest person who could make this and have lowest shipping expense, right? Or pick
Yeah.
up. So,
Well, that was one of the things I think you need to tie into that is there's only so much Mike can do over the phone.
mhm.
And I see like when he helped me, like, yeah, I was able to download the software and do a lot of those things, but I'm sure he runs into customers that he's like trying to solve the problem. And it's just a super challenge, but the ability to be like, oh, here's a maker within 30 miles and reach out on the weekend. They'll be able to come, and somebody like me that could take my computer with me and I can always dial into Mike for specific if I'm really running into a problem. But even then, I know what to look for. You know what I'm saying? Or Casey knows what to look for to solve that problem on site.
Yep.
And with because the number of people that it kind of blows my mind. Because if I wasn't like savvy already with doing crafts and things, I don't think I would have bought something like this. But there are people that are coming in really fresh.
Yeah. I said 1 sec, Lauren.
No, you're good. Mike, you look mighty comfortable.
Mike, yeah.
Hey, I got a quick question for
Yeah.
the group here. Just kind of a mind, just give your opinion on this, because I've got a board that's I'm noticing is warping on the frame for my wasteboard area,
Mhm.
and it's starting to tweak the evenness across the entire board. Do you think it's possible to just replace that piece, reinforce it, or should I be building a whole new bottom frame for that wasteboard?
One of the 2x4 sheets is starting to curl or warp.
I don't have yeah, one of the 2x4 pieces of the boards. Yep.
Yeah, I mean that would be my starting place.
Just
I
replace it. You
replace
think that's enough?
It might be. I
Okay.
mean, but again, the frame is left kind of open-ended in that sense, so you can reinforce a lot underneath if you wanted to, right? You could run some more of those 2x4s behind it to shore it up and utilize the other one to help stabilize. I even I tried to leave enough gap in the middle so that you could even just run a board, you know, across the center and then help continue to stabilize it further that way. Yeah, there's lots of things you can do to button that thing up, but I would just start with replacing that first board if you're seeing it specifically curling up.
Yeah, we've gone from like 0 degrees Fahrenheit to 60 in the last week, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I went out this weekend. I noticed that I'm having some warping starting to show up.
I
So
can imagine. I'm sure humidity's gone up and down too. It's all going to be,
yeah,
especially when you're dealing with like particle or MDF, right? It's going to have a chance to really start bending up on you.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, guys, I got to
Well,
bounce unless there's anything else in particular we want to go through.
Nope. That's
No, it's good talking to you. Hopefully I can get on here sooner next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks for all you're doing with the marketplace too, Lauren. We're all really excited to see those projects come up. We're so stoked.
Yeah. Real quick, they did got an email
Mhm.
talking about March for a kind of, what is it called?
Sign makers.
A sign makers. Yeah. Is that still in the works?
Still good.
Okay. I'll stand by for more emails. Yeah. We're me and my wife, we talked about it a little bit. We're ready to take part.
Yeah, I want to do another show and tell event soon too.
Okay,
For sure.
happy to help.
Yeah. Sweet.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
y'all take care.
Later, y'all.
See ya.
Bye.
Patrick, get with me later, please.
Yeah, we'll do.
Need to talk to you. All
Yep,
right.
absolutely.
All right. Sounds good, man. Bye.
Yeah.